welcome to the Animal Training Academy Making Ripples podcast show, the show where we share the stories of the ripple-making extraordinaires with behavior nerd superpowers who make up the Animal Training Academy membership. I'm your host and one of the happiness engineers at Animal Training Academy, Shelly Wood from Drop Your Jaws Dog Training in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in the United States. We're absolutely thrilled and grateful to have you here with us today. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. This show is brought to you on behalf of the Animal Training Academy membership. So if you like the conversations in these episodes, then we want to invite you to continue them with like-minded people in the ATA membership, which you can find out more about at www.atamember.com. Within the membership, you can get access to twice monthly live web classes, the back catalog of previous web class replays, plus a huge library of videos and projects to help you problem solve your training challenges. And we're a sociable bunch with an exclusive private Facebook group and forums area. It's like a Netflix social media platform for animal behavior geeks. Today, we are excited to welcome Simone Tuten to the show. Simone Tuten is an animal behavior consultant and trainer based in Western Australia, working with both dogs and horses. Her approach is grounded in positive reinforcement and a strong belief that animals are sentient individuals who deserve to feel safe, understood, and have a say in what happens to them. She supports clients through behavior challenges, including fear, anxiety, and reactivity, with a focus on practical, real-world strategies and ethical decision-making. Simone has a particular interest in consent-based training and helping people better read and respond to their animal's body language. Alongside her client work, she collaborates with vets and other professionals and enjoys supporting fellow trainers through mentoring. At the heart of her work is a simple goal: helping people and their animals understand each other and build trust that lasts. Welcome, Simone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me here. And whilst I'm nervous, I am also very excited to be here. And I've enjoyed listening to other trainers, other ATA members' journeys on the podcast as well. So I'm going to focus on the excitement part.
That sounds like a good idea. And we are very excited to have you here with us today, too. And thank you for working through the nervous piece. I know how nerve-wracking it can be to record ourselves and put that out there into the world. So we appreciate you being brave and willing to work through that, because based on all of our previous conversations, both in the Animal Training Academy Facebook group and forums, and then when you and I met last week, I know that you have a lot of really valuable information to share and that our audience is going to really love listening to you today. So I was hoping you would start us out today by telling us just a little bit about your story, a little bit about how you got interested in working with animals and some of the work that you do today.
Yeah, thank you. I think I was like quite a few of your guests on this podcast before. I was a child that was mad about nature and animals and the environment, and that was my happy place, and all my early memories are in there. One of the stories, as I think back at the start, is whilst I was at a school, I'm pretty sure it was a school fair, and at the school fair, which wouldn't happen now, but they were selling animals, which includes kittens. And I remember sitting on the oval next to strangers who had a kitten, and we were sitting near the loudspeaker. I can't remember what we were watching on the oval, but there was something going on. And little shy me realised that the kitten was absolutely struggling, and the family was struggling with kitten as well. So little shy me actually asked these strangers, "Can I just help with the kitten?" And they gave me the kitten, and I remember popping the kitten down my jumper, so the kitten was against my heart. And I was just trying to reassure the kitten, and eventually the kitten fell asleep there. So, and I think, thinking back, that's probably one of the earliest memories I have where I noticed there was an animal in distress with someone and the family was struggling. And I don't know, don't ask me why, because I was a very shy child, actually spoke up and asked if I could actually help. So that was probably the earliest memory of that. And shortly after that, I think I got some horse riding lessons. My parents let me have riding lessons every week with horses, and part of the school that I went to required that novice riders, beginner riders, needed to do an hour of theory, learning about horses, how to care for them, how to handle them, how to be with them, how to tack up, doing all those types of things before we could have our riding lesson for an hour. And as we progressed and became more experienced, that's what around we do the riding first, and then we would do an hour of theory. But part of that theory was also helping the newer riders tacking up. So we would go and catch the horses and we would gear up and do all that sort of thing as well. So it was a very immersive program that I went to. And during that time, because I knew that I absolutely loved horses, I learnt that I needed a certain way of being, and I was under the impression that if I loved horses, the only way that I could be around horses was if I handled them in a particular manner, and I needed to sort of toughen up, and this is just how you work with large animals or any animal. And what I know now is that was negative reinforcement and positive punishment based, and everything that goes along with that culture. So from the horses, I think shortly after that, I'm trying to think, this is a long time ago because I'm over 50 now. That's right, I changed schools, and the school had animal husbandry and farm practice, and also a strong environmental conservation focus to it. So I went into the high school there and selected those units. And I think working with the cattle and the sheep, the goats, the poultry, and everything, that further reinforced the learning that I had that this is how you are with animals. And I learned about their flight zones and how our body posture and everything like that has an influence on the direction that the animal was going to move and what we needed to do to be safe. Now, part of that program as well, I did do some training of cows, dairy cattle in particular, and calves and goats, some sheep for local shows and things like that. So we did all the halter training, did some work with some bulls, as well as general management. So that again just sort of reinforced, in hindsight, the negative reinforcement, positive punishment type of basis to the training. And so from during that schooling as well, my grades were not high enough, so I couldn't get into university directly. So I needed to wait, and so I could apply as a mature age student to go into university. And university came up because I was being told that the way forward to working with animals and to have any type of career would mean that I would need to become a vet, which in hindsight I know is not the case, but that was the messaging that I received then. So I enrolled in TAFE and did a certificate in equine management, and that certificate included giving riding lessons, but also breaking in horses as part of the curriculum. So we actually had race horses, the unbroken race horses that we handled, and we broke them in and prepared them for barrier trials. And again, that was pressure release, negative reinforcement type of training. So again, it still didn't sit well with me, but I didn't know any different. And so from there, I worked into the racing and pacing industries. I worked at a veterinary distributor, and I also worked in an aquarium shop and some plant nurseries and things like that. So there was still a theme going through of animals and nature and things like that. So moving forward into university, I got in, and I needed to do the first year of a biology, Bachelor of Science in Biology, with the aim of, if my grades were good enough, that I could get into vets. My grades were not good enough, which I don't regret now. And I swapped to a Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology, which is the first year that it was actually offered. And that did include some units about animal behaviour and genetics and things like that as well. But after that, again, under the idea that I couldn't really have a living with animals without being a vet, I transferred my focus a little bit more into the plant side of things. And I was offered two jobs after completing my university degree. One was, and I took the government job, and I worked for 2 years as a weed scientist, predominantly in weed research on skeleton weed. Did that for 2 years, and then transferred to another department in the state government with plant biosecurity, pest risk analysis and policy field. Now, whilst I was there, I was helping a friend who was running Alaska Malamute Rescue at the time. And I should point out, throughout this whole period, right from a child, people would always come up to me and ask for help with their animals, whether it's dogs, cats, horses, farm animals, if they had training and behavioural issues and things like that. And I would happily help them out with that. So anyway, my friend that was running Alaska Malamute Rescue, she contacted me one night and said, look, there's a vacancy available at TAFE if I wanted to get a credential in dog training. So spur of the moment, I said yes, and I spoke to the coordinator the next day, and I think the course started the day after that. It was a really quick progress, and I didn't really think about it. I just impulsively just said, yes, that sounds good. And that decision absolutely changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. And that was my first credential in the dog training world. My mentor, Ken Storrs, rest in peace, he changed me over and introduced me to the world of positive reinforcement and force-free ways of being with animals. And whilst it was a dog training course, I do remember having conversations with him and going, I wonder if this works with horses. So as I was learning about the dogs, I was also experimenting with the two horses that I had at the time as well. And so this is around 2006, 2007. And absolutely changed my life. But it took, what I thought was interesting was it took me about a year. So every Saturday at TAFE all day and it was a practical course-based course. So we were actually, TAFE ran subsidised dog training classes for the community. So it was actually like real life scenarios that we were practicing in, and dogs from shelters and things like that. And with that exposure, it took me about a year before I really got my head around, oh, this is how we can work with positive reinforcement. I think specifically I think I got the training aspect of it, like new skills teaching quite quickly, but it was how we deal with the undesired behaviours and behavioural challenges and problems like that. And that probably took me about a year before I think it really sunk in and got, oh, okay, this is making sense. And then a year after that as well, before I could rely on the fact that I wouldn't go into automatic prior learning history of when things didn't go according to plan and revert back to more harsher conditions. So it was like a two-year process, I think, for that. And I'm still learning. And so from there, I've got my CCPDT, the knowledge assessment, through the IAABC. I've got certified dog behaviour consultant. I've done a diploma of equine coaching and training, and a few other credentials along the way. So I've constantly been learning and updating and reviewing my approach as well. So I'm I didn't ask what I was doing now, did I? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that so far. And we will get to what you're doing now, I'm sure. And thank you to your mentor, Ken Stalls, was it?
Stores. Yeah, Ken Stores.
Yeah. Thank you to those people that come before us and help us learn. So wonderful that you had that person to help you like that. And it really struck me when I was listening to you talk, and you talked about how long it took you to really make that shift, especially when it came to behavior challenges as opposed to just teaching new behaviors. And I think a lot of us, if we really think about it, we'll have a similar journey if we come from a more traditional kind of training background, that it takes a while for us to change our behavior based on our previous learning history. It takes a while for us to change our mindset and then to change that actual behavior too. And I know that was my experience, but I don't really kind of stay in touch with that in the way that you've just articulated it, although that is true for me, and it makes me think about working with pet dog clients and trying to get them to change the way that they see things, completely shift their mindset, and what a challenging process that can be, or what a process, I'll just say it that way, what a process that can be. It does take time. And I think that as trainers and behavior consultants, sometimes it might be a little frustrating that it doesn't happen a little bit quicker with those people. Yet it didn't happen quickly for some of us either, probably most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I'm only really aware of how long it actually took me because the environment that I was in at the time and through TAFE. And then after I got that, it was an industry skill set. So it wasn't a certificate, but it was an industry skill set, which is considered to be the baseline entry level standard for dog trainers in Australia at that time. And that was actually for dog training, not behaviour. We were despite all that practical experience, we were also told that, if we see any behavioural problems, we needed to refer on because it was an entry-level course. But after that, I stayed on at TAFE and was a lecturer. And so I helped, and my role there was actually running the classes for the general public. So TAFE did subsidised dog training, and so I ran those classes, but those classes were set up so that the new students could come through and learn and practice their group training skills and apply what they've learned in the classroom to real life group classes and through puppy classes. And through that, plus further mentoring of other students beyond that and other trainers, it struck me that pattern that it does take people with a traditional background about a year before it sort of everything really solidifies and clicks, and it sort of makes sense and it gels. Yeah.
No, it sounds like your experiences have given you a lot of empathy for the people that you work with who might be trying to make similar changes themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
So you answered one of my questions. You said you were going through that program. I think you said maybe around 2006, 2007, and then you've gotten some pretty highly regarded credentials in the industry, including your IAAVC certified behavior consultant. When did you do that?
Oh, that was well before COVID.
That's kind of how I measure time these days.
COVID. It was pre-COVID. So, I'm going to say 7, 8, 9 years ago, somewhere around there.
Congratulations on that. That's a big
achievement.
Definitely
pre-COVID, so thank you.
You're welcome. And so what are you doing with all of those credentials and all of the knowledge and experience that you've gained? What are you doing with that today? Working with dogs, horses, a little of both?
Yeah, both. The vast majority of my work is with pet dogs and pet dog people. I do receive a lot of referrals from behaviour vets and primary care vets, physios, groomers, other trainers, to work with those dogs. So that's the vast majority of my work is on the dogs with behaviour challenges, and supporting the families with those dogs. With the horses, I do horse work as well. My approach with horses is in the minority still here. So it's most of my work has been introducing people to clicker training with horses and the positive reinforcement. Having said that, I haven't seen the horse yet, but I do have a referral from a behaviour vet for a horse with behaviour challenges. So it's going to be an interesting journey to go on that horse. I do some skills coaching for dogs as well, and I also offer some mentoring for trainers and support for trainers that are starting on their training journey as well.
The support that you offer through mentoring, is that a private consulting project of yours, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's private through my business and things like that. So I have the focus more on the practical skills. So I like to mentor people that have done some study already, so they are aware of the theory. But I like my mentoring is more focused on the practical application. And okay, now you've got a client. How are you managing client expectations? If you're running group classes, what are the skills there? And I use my puppy classes for the trainers to actually practice. So if I'm working with supporting a trainer and the trainer says, they really want to work on their confidence in speaking up and delivering towards a group class, they can do that in my puppy class. And it might just be setting them up to start with just letting the class know it's time for a break and to offer their puppies a drink. And that might be their first delivering to a group class type of thing. Or if they say they want to really focus in on puppy play, because in my puppy program, I do allow puppies to interact and play. So some of the trainers want to learn a little bit more about that and how to regulate the play, how to manage the puppies and the people during the play sessions and things like that. So, and then we do a weekly Zoom session as well, so that they can bring cases. They're all anonymous cases and things like that, so we can discuss that and they can have a plan. And I ask them, what their thoughts are about how they would progress and what other options and things they might be able to think about and apply. So, yeah, it's a nice program.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It sounds like a nice program. And I know that that's something that's really needed in the industry, is people that are willing and able to mentor others. And you mentioned that you use or that these people get some experience in in-person classes sometimes. So is everybody you're mentoring in person, or do you do any online mentoring as well?
I do the online mentoring as well. And I will also do so I have a weekly program, but I also have, one-off. So if a trainer just wants a second opinion or a review on a particular case, then we have a one-off Zoom session for that. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's really great. And if somebody was interested in working with you in that way, how would they get in touch with you, or how would they find out more information about that program?
Yeah, there's a bit of information on my website, which is just simonetuten.com.au. So there's some information on there, and they can book a call with me, and we can discuss, see if that's a good fit, a good option. Or they can directly book in and say if they want a case review, they can just book in directly with that. I am, insurance-wise, I am limited, so I can't assist people in the US or Canada. Well, yeah. But other places, it's okay.
For the audience who can't see, I just gave a big thumbs down to the fact that Simone can't mentor people in the U.S. or that's wonderful. That's wonderful that you offer that service, and it's something that is really needed, I think, in the industry. And it's great that you're able to do it remotely for some people. But not everybody.
No, sorry.
But it's a wonderful service. I'm glad that you're able to offer it. And then you also spend a lot of time with complex behavior cases, you said. Is that kind of do you have a favorite thing out of the things that you do? Is that it, working with those complex cases, or?
Oh, yeah, I do love working with the complex cases. Keeps my mind ticking over a lot. And sometimes, the complex cases in general, whether that's because of the individual dog's complexity or that dog's learning history and that client's learning history as well. So, they're fun. The cases, I remember, like one case, it was a weird case. The dog had lots of other behavioural challenges and things like that is. But one of the things that we actually identified, and it took a long process of elimination, was that the dog was actually scared of sunlight. And so that was a really interesting case to work through. And that involved a bit of management start, and because the dog had a lot of other issues that were more pressing than its concern about sunlight, we could manage that. Interesting cases, cases that have people that have gone through multiple trainers before. I like working with those cases and situations as well. I'm not a fan of separation anxiety work, though, so I rather refer that to other people as well. And same with, if the primary concern is the dog's behaviour with children or a family expecting a new child, I will quite often refer to other trainers that are specialised in that area, because I do think it's a specialist field and it's not an area that I specialise in. And I'm fortunate where I am that there's a really good trainer not far from me, actually, who specialises in the kids and canines aspect of it. And we have worked together with a few times where she might have contacted me and said, I just need to make sure that she's going to be safe coming into the home. And in some circumstances, she's helped my clients via Zoom. But I would do the work on the behavioural challenges, like if there's reactivity and aggression and repetitive behaviours, those types of things, before she comes in, and she focuses on the preparing that dog for the child or the family for children. So, yeah, a nice collaborative approach. And
yeah, it sounds like you've got a good local network for that too. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I have quite a good network here.
I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit now and talk about some more training specific stuff. So maybe we'll get to hear about some of these, and maybe not, then maybe we'll get to hear about some of these more interesting and complex cases that you do get to work with. But I would love it if you would share with us a little bit about a training challenge that you've experienced and how you worked through it and some things that you learned along the way.
Yeah. So there was a dog, and I don't have the history exactly in front of me, so but I'll do my best to remember. One of the example that came to mind was someone with a puppy, and the puppy had been raised with positive reinforcement the entire way of the puppy's journey. And it's not the client's first puppy, and it was not the first dog that she had trained with positive reinforcement. And so puppy had been out going for walks, enjoying walks, having the harness put on, the lead put on, was in the show ring, was doing really, really well. And unfortunately, on the same day, had two negative experiences with some aversive training. And as a result of that, the dog developed significant fear to the harness, to the extent that if the owner picked up the harness, the dog would bolt and run to the furthest corner of the property shaking. And so she called me out to see if I could assist and help with the dog, which I did. And we explored obviously the harness situation, and we discussed all that. But part of the assessment, it discovered that it wasn't just the harness, it was anything that looked like a strap. So if the owner picked up a lead rope, I remember she had a folded up towel and was wiping it up under the dog's chin just to clean off some water after it had a drink. And that was okay. So I grabbed the towel and I just turned it and rolled it up into a strip, and the dog was gone. So anything that looked like any sort of strap. So we had to, the owner, I went down the usual, well, not usual, but I went down a fairly typical thing of, bring out the harness, doing the counter conditioning type of work. And the dog was very, very suspicious still with that, with the owner and the family. But we got him to the stage where, the harness could be down on the ground, and then he would be comfortable about a metre or two from the harness. But that was a training plateau. And as soon as the owners moved a hand towards the harness, the dog was gone. So I took over some of the training. No, I didn't. I trained I taught the owner and said, okay, we're going to bring in a consent, a scent-based start button type of process for this dog, and working on the harness, which the owner was doing, but the dog was so suspicious of the owner that she couldn't, even though she was getting her timing right and everything, that association with the harness and any straps held by the owner was too strong for the dog. So I actually stepped in and did the training with this dog. And we got to the stage where I can pick up the harness and everything. He was quite happy to participate in the training program. And I think I could get to the stage, it's been a few years ago now, I think I was getting to the stage where he would give me the start button and I could pick up the harness and move it towards his body, but he was really reluctant to have it actually touch his body. So I remember changing strategies and started off with a shoelace and started working with that. Then I plaited a shoelace and made it a little bit large so we could actually get it over his back and everything. Then I also worked on a very lightweight vest with this dog. One of the give me space vests, and started conditioning the dog to wearing that, all using the start button procedure. And then we worked back towards the harness, and eventually, he would consent. We could put the harness on for him. But I also noticed every time we did up the girth strap, he would sort of freeze a little bit. He would still consent for it, and he would still say, yes, that was okay, but that was a real sticking point for him. So then we got used to, well, is it touch? Can we touch him underneath his belly and everything like that? And yes, that was fine. It was still associated with straps and things. And I remember having conversations with the owner about, how ethical it is to continue working with him with this harness, but walking on a harness was important for the owner. Because she had tried walking him on a collar, but he would pull so hard, and he actually vomited twice from his pulling on the lead. So I had temporarily paused there, and I thought, okay, we're going to have a look at this walking, because in the meantime, for exercise, she was putting him into a car and hiring private venues for him. They were also on an acre property, I think, from memory. So, he's not like he was in a small area. He was getting his exercise met elsewhere. So as we went out for a walk, I thought, okay, we can work a little bit on him not pulling so much on the lead. So she's got him on a collar. But I since then discovered that he also almost panicked, actually, if the lead touched his body. So he was really hypersensitive to the lead touching him. So we had big conversations there. I think we went to a behaviour vet at that time. I can't recall exactly. There were definitely vet checks to see if there was anything else going on. So we worked with that with the owner, and I could actually walk the dog on a lead, and he wasn't pulling too much. There was just some timing issues with him. But again, we had to be very, very careful that the lead didn't touch his body at the time. Around about the same time as well, I think he started plucking his hair on one of his legs. So there was lots of vet checks in there just to rule out any sort of medical issues in there, and pain being contributing factors. We did persist a little bit longer with the harness work, but at the end of the day, the owner then went, no, this is not fair to try and proceed anymore. So we stopped the harness work completely, and focused more on just walking him on a collar and not pulling, and helping him overcome his concern about the lead touching his body. And also at that point, I then transferred him to another local trainer who was more skills-based, and she did some fun games, and she had a venue that she could hire where he could actually work off lead as well. But part of that was getting him used to just dragging the lead, a really light lead, and she did a lot more of that, more training type of work with him. And I remember there was a case, I don't think it was on the forum, actually, I think it was on the ATA members Facebook group, that I did actually post about this dog and seek some advice as well and suggestions on a way forward. So that's one challenging case that I thought I would share.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one for sure. And what do you think some of your biggest lessons? What are some things that you learned working that case, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was one of the things that really stood out to me was how quickly aversive stimulants can have such a big negative impact upon a dog, um, especially when the dog had a long history of, positive associations with a harness and just to turn it around that far. Um, the owner wasn't the person that I did the aversives. There were other people doing that, but the owner was there. So it was just that fear learning and, yeah, how damaging that can be was a big one. It was, as a personal journey as well, it was learning how to have these conversations with owners about the ethics of continuing of training and planting the seed for them and just finding that sort of middle line if they're not ready yet to give up, is navigating those waters and not crossing my own boundaries, but also having those difficult conversations with the owners and supporting them through that. Yeah, that's a big learning for me, who doesn't like confrontation and is shy.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that be a big lesson there, a big not lesson, but learning something to navigate there and learn new skills to figure out how to have those conversations. And that before you even got to the point of talking about the ethics of the harness, I was kind of thinking that like, I wonder how long when we're working with an animal who is having who appears to be having negative feelings about something, having negative associations with it, how long is too long to try a certain tactic to change that. What kind of things do you use to guide you when thinking through those kind of questions? How long is too long to stick on this particular path or to try working on this thing in this way?
I think with this one, I persisted a little bit longer because the dog was still, and if I was talking to the owner, the dog would actually go and pick up the harness and bring it to the area where we were doing the training. So throughout all this, the dog was still engaged in the process, and he could always opt out. And obviously, he started when we did these things, and we did get him to the stage where he's comfortable wearing the harness, but he was not comfortable moving wearing the harness. And that's where I really, really started to, I think that was the second time I had that conversation with the owner. But I think in this particular case, the owner was really good because she gave other avenues for exercise for this dog by hiring fenced venues and things like that. His recall was not reliable enough. He was an entire dog as well, right in adolescence. Walking him off lead in public was not an option for safety and things like that. And there was, the negative effects. He's pulling that hard on a collar. So it was sort of starting, well, what's the lesser of the two evils? Which way do we go? We did consider a halter, a head halter, but I think they're aversive, and there's a long training process to go with that as well. And the owner was like me as well. She's reluctant to use that. And I think in hindsight, when I sort of raised that as a question, I wasn't aware that he was that sensitive to the lead touching him either. And I think if we had gone with a head halter, there would have been more lead contacting his body as well. So that would have ruled that out anyway. So in general, if a situation is really aversive to a dog, they've got such a negative emotional response to it, I do try and see if it's at all possible to avoid the issue and go, is it actually really important that the dog, is this something that must happen for the dog's welfare and well-being? If it's an optional extra, then I would try and have those conversations with the owners and going, this is something that your dog now really dislikes. It's very traumatic, stressful for them. It's an optional extra. How about these as alternatives? And trying to get a vibe from them for that. If it's something that's needed for the dog's well-being, welfare, longer-term medical care and things like that, then yes, I do work with them. But we also have plans that whilst the cooperative care work, etc., is going on, if the dog needs to see a vet, there would be a discussion had with the primary care vet or the prescribing behaviour vet about medication and what support we can give to the dog before seeing the vet or having that handling or grooming or whatever that process is that has to be done.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Those are some tricky conversations that we have to have with people sometimes when trying to figure out what the best thing for an animal's welfare is, but also the best thing for the welfare of the overall unit of the human that comes with the animal and public safety and all of that. So,
but yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's not ideal, but it's finding that balancing act and yeah, having certain lines that we won't cross. But yeah.
It sounds like having those conversations has been, based on what you shared about this particular experience with this dog and this family, that having those conversations has been a little bit of a learning experience for shy Simone too, to broach these kind of conversations. Is that accurate?
Yeah, sometimes. It's become a lot easier, over time, but there are still some conversations and I'm like, oh, I don't know how the family is going to respond to this and how they're going to take it. And sometimes they surprise me and I try and remember those cases, because sometimes people are like, oh, we must take our dog for a walk, or we must do this, or we must do that. And sometimes I tell them, no, you don't. Actually, there's alternatives. And sometimes there is just so much relief from the owners that they've actually got permission. They don't need to walk the dog in suburbia every single day. There's other alternatives, and that is okay. Or, more of a training example. If someone says, oh, my dog must walk at my side, and they're struggling with that, and I'm like, does it actually have to walk at your side, or can it walk on a loose lead anywhere else? And sometimes it's almost a surprise to them that is an option. So I think there's benefits to having these conversations because sometimes it is a relief for the family that you're helping as well.
Yeah, for sure. There are benefits to having them. And I know what you're talking about. Sometimes you say things and people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that my dog didn't have to sit the second I stopped walking or whatever it is. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Would you share with us now about a training situation that you're proud of and or one that you found reinforcing?
Yeah. I think my own training journey, I'm just going to say I'm proud of that as well, like crossing over from traditional way of being with animals to where I am now, and then I'm still continuing to learn. So that is one thing that I'm really pretty proud of that I can do. But there's another case that I'd like to sort of share, and it's quite a recent case as well, and a lovely family with I think he's a 5-year-old dog who, the family couldn't have anyone come into the house. The dog did have a low-level bite history. The bites were actually done away from the house. I don't think he had any bites in the house, but I think that was purely the family was so good on management that nobody came into the house. And this dog had seen multiple trainers, including some very experienced trainers working with behaviour, and they were unable to be able to go into this house with the dog. And so the dog again had several other issues as well. There was noise phobia, there was some reactivity towards other dogs, something else that slips my mind at the moment. But the main thing was for this family, they couldn't have anyone inside the house. So working with them, and they were very, very dedicated people. And again, we started with a start button process and gave this dog some control as to whether or not someone entered his house, and then we worked on that. And so this is a dog that his solution to someone coming into the house was to go forward, and he would, no doubt in my mind, he would have bitten someone that just walked into the house. So we started up with the start button process and gradually got to the stage where I could come into the house and he could enter and follow me and things like that. But one of the things I'm really proud of is the dedication of the owners and their understanding and their relationship development with their dog. But the big thing that came out of that process as well is this dog realised that he could leave the situation as well. And that was one of our cues. Like if we asked him for the start button and he said no, that's fine. We took him out for a little walk away and a break. But when it came into the house as well, he's going, no, this is too much. And before he gave anyone a hard eye, before he did anything, he's like, no, I'm going out. And the family just let him go out. And he was starting to take himself out. So that was a real big shift from a dog that was going to use his teeth to now going, actually, I'm going to leave. Even after he'd sort of assented to someone entering the house. This is a dog I had it called on my trainer network as well, one of the trainers that I'm mentoring. And she was our stranger. So once we got the process in place, it was myself. We replicated it with the stranger. And she's been able to come into the house, pretend to go to the toilet and come back. Now, the dog is still on lead, but he's quite relaxed there. He's very happy for having someone in the house now. They recently had some tradies come in and they obviously would separate the dog, but normally what would happen if the tradies were inside, the dog would be out in the backyard barking and, getting really distressed and upset. The last lot of tradies that came in, they put him outside and he just curled up and went to sleep. No medication on board for that either. And then the tradies had to go outside, so they brought him inside and he just curled up on the couch and went to sleep whilst there were tradies there. So very proud of that dog, very proud of their owners for sticking with the program and just seeing the joy. And now they just laugh and go, oh, the dog said no, off we go. And that's okay.
What a fantastic outcome. I hope you're also very proud of your support and the help that you provided for this dog and family. Yeah. Wonderful. What a very cool thing that it went from going toward something to going the opposite way and just saying, I'll create distance this way instead.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Lovely case. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and for sharing everything that you have shared with us so far today. Before we're getting ready to start wrapping up here in just a minute or so, but before we do, if folks want to get in touch with you, the best way to do that is through the website that you mentioned earlier. Is that right?
Yeah. They can contact me through my website. I also have a Facebook page. I do have Instagram, but I don't use Instagram very often.
Okay. And what is your Facebook page? Is it your name or? We'll put it in the show notes.
I think, we'll put it in the show notes. I think it's, I don't think I've changed the name yet. It's Simone Tuten - Positive Pets Dog and Horse Behavior Consultant or something like that.
Okay.
But I'll send you the link. I'm in the process of changing it. So I restructured my business. So I changed from a sole trader under Positive Pets to just trading under my business name in a different structure. So
we'll make sure to get those links from you so we can get that in the show notes for anybody who wants to reach out and get in touch. Thank you for joining me. And from myself, on behalf of ATA, on behalf of everybody listening today, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to share with us some of your story today, Simone.
Oh, thank you very much.
We do, of course, appreciate all of you tuning in as well. And if you have enjoyed this episode and are interested in carrying on the conversation about working with the animals in our lives in the most positive, most fun, and most choice-rich ways, then as mentioned at the start of this episode, the Animal Training Academy community is waiting for you. Head on over to www.atamember.com and click on the membership button in the main menu to learn more about what members are describing as the Netflix social media platform for behavior geeks. That's it for this episode, though. Thank you so much for listening. You'll hear from us again soon.